Hi everybody. In this quick tutorial video, I'm going to show you a few tricks about how to get files from Google Drive into a Google Sites web page. We haven't spent a lot of time talking specifically about different platforms for online classes, whether that's Blackboard, D2L, Brightspace, Canvas, or Google Sites. I don't spend a lot of time talking about the nuts and bolts of that end of online writing instruction, because in most cases, that's the one kind of training you can get from your home schools. So many schools have their own custom versions of Blackboard or Canvas or D2L or what have you. And so I don't go into the details of the mechanics of that process of building class websites, because you can get that on your own campus. That's why we're using Google Sites for this class. Google Sites is simple and easy to use, relatively not complex compared to Blackboard and the other LMS platforms, but it's becoming more universal. And so I think knowing how to do a few things in Google Sites can be quite useful. And even if your home campus or wherever you end up teaching online is not a Google school like UALR, you still have access to Google Sites for free, and it's a great way to build a professional portfolio, to practice building course websites, to maybe build a model course website that you could use to send people to if you're applying for jobs and things like that. So it's worth knowing a few tricks. Also, a few questions have come up from individuals in the class about how to do a couple specific things. So I'm going to take a few minutes and dive a little bit deeper into one particular feature of Google Sites, which is the Insert from Drive feature. So on the screen right now is the file called Michael's Course. This is my technical writing class. I've been using this as a demo site. It's just kind of 1/4 built. It's not really done, so I'm just using it as a show and tell site. So I have this week 2 over here where week 3 is what I want. I've just created the dummy page that says week 3 and weekly learning goals that I just copied and pasted from someplace else. Here's what's cool. We looked before at how to use the embed code. If you can see on the right-hand panel, again, we have 3 options that you need to toggle the right option at the top. Insert, Pages. Pages is where you can add an entire page at a time. And then Themes, of course, is where you make your selections for your design template. We're interested in the Insert menu. And there are 4 options at the top of the page: Text Box, Images, Embed, and From Drive. And what is pretty darn awesome about Sites is that anything that you have in your drive, virtually any kind of file, you can import into a Google Sites web page. So what I have done in my folder for this class, you can see I have an absolute ridiculous amount of stuff here now. I've created a subfolder called Michael's Site. And in that subfolder, I have a variety of different kinds of files. I have a Google Docs file, and you can tell this by looking at the little icon. The blue icon here tells me that's a Google Docs file. That says PDF. That's a PDF file. This one is a video, .mp4. This one is an image. It's a .png. That's a portable network graphics file. You can also use JPEG or other images if you want to put a photograph or an image of some type. And also a Google slide deck to show you how that works. Any of these files can simply be imported and plopped right onto the page in a pretty cool process. So I'm going to demonstrate a little bit about how to do that. But first I want to back up and show you how to get things into Google Drive in the first place. But I do recommend, if you're going to do much of this, create a folder as I have done here. Again, you can see over here when I go to From Drive, it brings up everything in my entire drive, which is, as I said, crazy amount of stuff. I have a folder for this class, RET 7372, and in there I have created a subfolder called Michael's Site. That way I know I can just get to that folder and everything I want is in one place, so I don't spend a bunch of time digging around through long lists of files to find what I want. I've created a sort of demo of different types of files here. So let's jump over to my Google Drive folder here. So here I have, this is my drive. I can tell I'm in the UALR drive. I now have, believe it or not, 7 different Google Suite accounts because I have 7 different jobs going at this time. UA Little Rock, I'm in the right place. Here's my folder. 03 RET 7372. And again, there's Michael's Site. So you notice it's the same stuff because we're just looking at the same set of files and folders through a different window. So question number 1, this is back to Google Drive 101. How do you move a folder into, or a file into another folder? Well, on one option, let's say I want this file called Learning Grid and I want to move it into my site. You can simply drag it. Zip, and it moves it right in there. So I just clicked on the file and physically moved it. Another approach that you can take, let's go to some files that aren't linked to my class website. I don't want to break stuff. Find a file over here. Copy of sample case study 1. Let's say I want to move this. How do I get that file into my Michael's site folder so that I can see it when I need it later? There are 2 ways to do that. One is to right click, or if you're on a Mac and you have a 1-button mouse, you hold down the command button and hit click. Control, option, no, control click. It's control, not command, sorry. So if you only have a 1-button mouse on a Mac, you hold down the control button and click, or if you have a right button mouse on a Windows machine, you right click. It brings up this little menu, and there's a little folder that says move to, and you can move it to any other folder. The other option you can do is to highlight the file, and up here at the top there are some icons. There's a link, there's an add person, there's a preview, trash, and then there's these 3 dots that brings up a more actions button. Click that, same thing, move to. So when we click that, it brings up all of my folders. Now I know the folder I want is in here, 03 ret 7372, Michael's site, and now there's those files, and now I click the blue move here button. So there's 3 different ways to do it: drag and drop, right click, or use the more actions icon. So now I can go here, back to that folder, and there's that file, copy of sample case study number 1. The other question that came up is, how do you convert a file into a PDF and get that into Google Drive? Well, let's first of all, let's say, why would you want to do that? There are advantages and disadvantages to different types of files. This happens to be a Google Docs file. You can tell by the blue icon. The advantage of using a Google Docs file, which you have seen because I've done it a lot in this class, is a Google Docs file can be edited. So if I want to give you a file like a template for a project and say, fill in the blank, I want to use a Google Docs file for that purpose. But if I have something like a syllabus or an assignment sheet or an informational document, and I don't want you to be able to edit it, I want that to be a PDF portable document format of a file. And PDF basically locks the file down in place, locks the design, locks the text. It can't be edited unless people have Adobe Acrobat Pro, which your students probably aren't going to have. So how do I convert a docs file to a PDF? What you do is, it's a little wonky, but this is how it works. You go to the file menu. So this is the file I want to convert. It's called copy of sample case study number 1, file. And then down here you go download as, and it gives you these options: Microsoft Word, open document, rich text, PDF, plain text, web page, and EPUB. A surprising number of options. We want PDF. So what it's going to do is Google is going to copy and create a new version of this file, converting it to a PDF, and then it's going to download it to my desktop. It'll take a minute. It's working in the background, and now we can see the little arrow, and there's the file. It will appear in your downloads folder or wherever you tell your computer to put things that you download from the web. I'm going to drag it onto my desktop. Okay, so now I have copy of sample case study 1.pdf. Notice the original file is still there. Now I want the PDF in that folder. So in this case, you can see here it is. I'll wiggle it so you can see it. Here's the PDF file on my local desktop. Now that's not doing me any good at the moment because it's on my local drive, not in Google Drive where I can access it online. So I'm going to just drag it back in there. So now I have 2 versions of that same file. One is a Google Docs and one is a PDF. So that's a quick snapshot of how to get different types of files into a folder in Google Drive and how to convert a Docs file to a PDF file. Now let's go back to the website, and I'll go back to full screen view so there's more real estate and you can see this better. And let's look at this from Drive function. So I'm basically just going to do an experiment and see what happens with different types of files. So let's start with a PDF, the file that we just did. I navigate to the folder that I'm looking for, the one called Michael's site. So there's that file, copy of sample case study. It's a PDF. I've highlighted it, and I'm just going to click the button that says insert. And there it is. It plops it right in there on the page. Now, it didn't really give me a lot of options. It just basically puts it wherever the cursor is active on the page. And let's say I want to move this next to this text instead of below it. There's a little handle right here, these dots, kind of like a grippy handle. Now that's moving the whole section, sorry. I want to move just this. Gonna drag it up there like that. And now notice, now it's kind of made the whole thing really tiny. And if I want to make it bigger, again, you can just drag these handles and it will sort of squish things around to make different sizes. So let's say I like it about like that. But now I notice, only the top of the page is showing. I want students to see the whole first page. Again, the blue handles, these little dots, I'm just going to drag the bottom one, and it's just like a window shade. And I'm going to drag that down, and so I can see the whole page. And now when I release the mouse, there it is. Now you'll also notice it tells me here, page 1 of 6. So this is actually a 6-page document. And then here is, to the right, there's this little arrow thing, like that. And if a student clicks on that on the live site, it'll open the file from its original format. So any kind of text document, you can do it like that. Let's try the same process with another type of file. So we're going to go back to that folder, clicking through Michael's site. Let's try that as a doc file. Again, I've highlighted it. It tells me down at the bottom, 1 is selected, insert. It does the same thing. Now, in this case, it filled the whole screen, but that's too much. I'm going to drag this. I want it to be kind of small. Again, you can just scooch these little blue handles around to your heart's content to get it sized the way you like it. And then I could drag a text box in there next to it and explain it. And I could say, this is a sample case study. Take a look. Same thing as before. If the student is going to click on that, it'll open and download the whole file. So if you wanted to put, say, a template for a project assignment, you could do it as a Google Docs file like that, and then the students can download it, edit it, and then post it for you as an assignment. So that's how Google Docs files work. Now let's try a couple somewhat trickier. From Drive, back again, back to my site. Let's try a slide presentation. Here's a Google Slides deck. Insert. Now this is pretty cool. I'm going to make this bigger. And now notice I'm dragging the corner, so I can pull it either out or down to kind of get the thing to fit the way I like that. So this is a thing called a mobile approach. I didn't write this. It was a Gadget software document. I'm going to publish this and see what it looks like for my students. So again, your site has been published successfully. Hit the view button. Now I'm seeing the live site from the student's perspective. And there's that slide deck I just put in there. And this is pretty nice because there's a show button like that, and it has kind of a timer built in, and it will just play through the slides. Or students have the option to pause that and click through the slides one at a time. So you can use Google Slides to produce a pretty nice little lesson in a fairly simple way. If, just as I'm doing here, I'm just clicking through these slides. Let's say you wanted to do a lesson in how to write an effective thesis statement for a rhetorical analysis. You could do that as a Google slide deck and then tell the students to kind of click through it page by page. Again, I didn't have to create any of this. Google does it automatically. If it's a Google Slides file and I use that embed or insert function, size it the way I want, and then there it is. And then I could put a little text box below it, go back over to the editor now, put a text box down here and say, and explain something about how, here is the slide presentation I created to show you how to write a thesis statement. Click through the arrows to view the slide presentation at your own pace. Something like that, and explain it. So we're starting to build a pretty sophisticated little site here. It's in no particular order because I'm just doing this on the fly. But I just want to show you, I'm just trying to show you how easy it is to build a site once you get all your content put together in Google Drive. So let's try one more. Let's try a video. I showed you the other day how to do the YouTube route. The simpler route is to just do it this way. So I have an MP4 file called mgpractice.mp4, and I'm going to select that and insert it. And again, Google automates a whole bunch of this stuff because it knows what kind of file it is. It recognizes that's an MP4, and it inserts the video player by default. So I can drag this out, make it fit however I want. Let's say, you know what? I want the slides and the video to be side by side. Now that totally messed up the sizing on that. So, obviously if I was being more careful, I would take more time to make sure that these were sized appropriately. Let's just go like that. And whoop, look at that. I broke Google Drive. Let's try this again. We're going to insert a video. I think what happened there is I was just moving files around too fast. And Google Sites didn't like that because that video file was probably a fairly large file. So I'm going to try this again. Insert the video file. And then if we hit publish, go back to my course site, refresh the page to see what it looks like now. Okay, now there's the video. Notice the slide thing went away because I dropped it out of there. So there it is, and the students can play the video like this right here. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't have the audio turned on. Now, the thing that you don't get this way is you don't get the automatic captions from YouTube. That's why I think it's worth the extra step in a live class environment to upload the video to YouTube and then do the embed responsively thing that I showed you in the other video to get those captions on there. But for the purposes of this class, and if you're just playing around and want to learn some things, it's considerably faster to simply upload the file to your Google Drive folder. So go back over here to the editor. So again, set up a folder and get all of the content that you need and all the various kinds of documents into that folder first. And then when you go here and use this insert from Drive feature, you can just go to that very quickly like I've been doing, right like that. And there's all these files. Let's try one more. Let's try a picture. Again, you'll notice a pattern here. It just inserts it on the page and puts a blue box around it. You can move this anywhere you want just by dragging it. You can resize it by moving the little corner handles, reposition it. Sometimes if you link things together and then you can separate them apart like that. So it's a fairly modular page design, and you can get pretty sophisticated because the other thing you can do in here, I don't know if I've showed you this before, if you select a particular section, there's this little painter's palette icon, section background, and you can change the color. You could even go like that and make it light on dark. If you wanted to have highlight something on the page, or use visual contrast to draw attention to things, there are several built-in options. There's called regular, which is just basic white on black text, emphasis 1, which is kind of gray, emphasis 2, which is white on black. And hit publish. Go back over to the live site, refresh the page. Didn't quite get loaded. There we go. Now you can see it's loaded, explained to students. So you can see I changed the background from light to dark, and actually that's kind of elegant with that background photo. So that's a quick demo of how to get different kinds of files up into your Google Drive folder and then how to insert them using the all-powerful, all-handy insert from Drive. It's worth practicing and playing around with that a little bit. It's actually a pretty powerful way to build a web page really fast. You can see I got a whole bunch of content up here, and now I could rearrange it and write the copy to attach to it. So it's not a bad process to do it that way, to just kind of get all your stuff in one folder, then insert the stuff on the page, and then move and adjust the page to get things sized and positioned properly for the optimal learning reading experience for your students. And then you hit the blue publish button and you can test it out. And you could also go to that same URL on your mobile phone, obviously through a browser, and see how your site looks on your phone, and test out and make sure that it flows properly and that the images and icons and files that you've just posted up there display in the way that you want them to. Sometimes you have to go back and do a little tweakage to get that to work. But it's a fairly straightforward process. Again, like anything involving technology, it just takes some practice. There's no shortcut for some of this stuff, but I think it's worth knowing how to do this bit of inserting from Google Drive, because it makes Google Sites actually a super powerful and super fast way to build a course website or a professional portfolio or any other kind of website that you might want to build. Okay, thanks for listening.